Hi guys, today I'm doing my June wrap up. I am not wearing a hat, but I am wearing a scarf on my head, which counts as headwear. In fact, this isn't a scarf, it's a sarong. Sarong, but it feels so right. Anyway, in June I had a bit of a TBR pile challenge fail as I didn't read any books, which had been on my TBR since before the start of the year. But I did read 3 books and they are all for the Yauk Readathon challenge, which I am hosting myself, and I have started 2 more and have them on the go at the moment. Normally I don't read more than 1 novel at once, but I've read 2 at the same time twice during the month of June, so let's get on and I will explain why. The first book I finished reading in June was Girl Out of Water. This is a story about a girl who fails a Olympics training swimming trial and has to kind of adjust to being an everyday person instead of a potential future champion, while her best friend has gone off to this training camp. So she doesn't have any friends, she doesn't really have swimming anymore, and she kind of has to readjust her view of herself and learn to find a new place for herself in the world. There's a lot of girl boy comedy stuff because the main character, while she was training to be a swimming champion, didn't really have a lot of time for boys. So now she finds herself starting to pay more attention to them, and then when 3 of them ask her to coach them to do underwater acrobatics, synchronised swimming, she doesn't know what it is. She's very intimidated, but she's determined not to let them make a fool out of her. And it's really funny. It's written by a comedian, and that really comes through in the book. There's lots of funny one-liners and observations that the narrator makes, and it's just a lot of fun. I really enjoyed Girl Out of Water. I'm looking forward to seeing what the author writes next, and to reading her previous adult release, which my boyfriend happens to have a copy of. It's on a shelf over there, his shelf. This is my shelf. My shelf's a lot bigger. Then I read Hold Me Closer by David Levithan. Now, as I was reading this, I also started reading Hacker by Malorie Blackman, but this paperback is a lie because I didn't actually end up reading this paperback edition. I listened to the audiobook. So I was doing these 2 things at the same time. They're very different kinds of books, so it was quite easy. Hold Me Closer is a tie-in book to the book Will Grayson, which was co-written with John Green. Now, this book is a bit strange because it's a musical. It's the script of a musical, but it's also presented with little asides and descriptions and explanations from Tiny. He explains and justifies certain decisions that he made in the writing of the musical. So you can kind of put together the story from that. However, I wouldn't say that it's one to read if you haven't read Will Grayson. I think you have to read that first. Otherwise, you won't really know the story and you won't know the other side of what's going on. Especially as for a while Tiny dates one of the Will Graysons. So unless you've seen that Will Grayson's point of view, you're not going to get the whole picture. Although I didn't love Hold Me Closer, it won't make it into my all-time favourite books list. It was still really fun. I really liked that it was written in the form of a musical. It seemed very true to the character of Tiny, and also I think it would be a pretty good musical. If it was made, I would go and see it. I just thought that because it retold the story of Will Grayson, there were no surprises. It was exactly what I expected it to be, and that lessened my enjoyment somewhat. It's actually a really quick read. It doesn't look enormously short when you look at it like that, but because it's written in a musical, there's lots of white space around the text, and songs are repetitive, so you can kind of skip over choruses, and that makes it fast to read. So I did read this quite quickly, and it's one I would recommend if you're looking for a kind of filler read in between longer books. Hacker by Malorie Blackman, which I was reading at the same time and also afterwards for a bit as well, is about a girl whose dad is arrested, charged with the crime of stealing money from the bank he works at. So he's apparently put £1 million into his bank account. However, she doesn't believe that this is really happened. She thinks that her father's innocent. She happens to be quite good with computers, so she decides that she's going to use what she knows about the bank's computer system to get in and work out what's really happened. There were lots of things I liked about Hacker. I like the family dynamics. The main character is adopted, and so she has some issues with her brother and her parents because of that. I like that they're also a mixed race family. I liked that the main character is a girl who's really into computers and has a close relationship with her father because of their shared interest. I liked the issues that she has with her school because of this. I thought it was quite realistic. However, it was first published in 1992 and computing has moved on quite a bit since then. Vicky describes entering command lines into the computer in order to use the bank software, and nowadays I imagine that if you work at a bank you don't have to enter command lines in unless you are a programmer. Vicky's dad is a programmer, but still, if he was entering the bank software and logging in, he wouldn't have to use command lines. There would be a Windows-like interface for him to get in there, and they just don't have that at all. He has to enter command lines just to use the computer in the first place, and then to enter the bank's software system. That's just not how it would look today. Another thing that's dated is the use of disks. Nowadays you'd probably have an SD card or a USB stick or something instead, or you wouldn't need to have software on a disk because it would be loaded onto your computer already. I found that these elements didn't stop me enjoying the story, but they were a little bit distracting because I kept thinking, oh no, that's really dated now, that's also really dated now. There's also some plot points in the story which could have been avoided if Vicky had had a mobile phone, and nowadays she would probably have a mobile phone. If Malorie Blackman was to rewrite this story and update it, then I think it could be a very popular read. However, in its current state it's not going to have that broad an appeal just because it is so clearly dated. I listened to Hacker as an audiobook and I really enjoyed the experience. I just downloaded it on a whim really when I was doing lots of stuff around the flat, and I already looked at all the videos in my YouTube subscription feed and I wanted something else to listen to whilst I was cleaning and cooking and all the rest. So I thought I would download Hacker because I had it as a paper book. I thought I would listen to it until I'd finished all the housework and then I would pick up the book and carry on from there. However, I never ended up picking up the book because I discovered that actually I love audiobooks. Who would have thought? I had tried listening to audiobooks before in the past, but I hadn't really got on with them, and I think I was just listening to bad audiobooks because I actually found listening to Hacker really compelling. And since then I've started listening to The Raven Boys and I'm finding that really compelling as well. It's very difficult to press stop when I've got something else to do. So now I'm totally converted to audiobooks, so if you have any recommendations let me know. I am using the Overdrive app because it lets me access audiobooks through my library. So thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you read in June or if you have your own wrap-up video for June. And if you liked any of these books, let me know. If you didn't like any of these books, let me know. And also, how do you feel about audiobooks? Let's get a discussion going. You'll see me again soon. Bye!